open. I'm going to give it 2 seconds to make sure that people can hear not only me but you, because I am worried. I always get worried after not streaming for like 2 months. It's like, oh, now we're not streaming audio broadcast again. I'll just fire me a message in there for sound check. Give it the full soundtrack while we're waiting. Bam, bam, bam. This is not the herd.
There'll be slightly less reasonable takes, and also slightly more reasonable.
I don't know. I mean, Niall said it was the death of wholesome content, but I'm hoping to interweave, hoping that wholesome content becomes interwoven throughout our broadcast. Yes, we are joined by the Super Bowl winning coach of 2 years back.
I think week one might be the death of wholesome content, but it's the kick up the hole that those people need.
Good.
And wholesome content will follow.
Yeah, there should be wholesome content. I've got for the 3-word game. I just finished Stoops's there, so there's 8 games. There's 1, 2, 3. At least 5 of the 8 are positive 3-word games. At some point, somebody this year is getting a 3-word game of your game. You are terrible. It's at some point, but I couldn't
Burn
do
it down.
Yeah, exactly. The hot seat. No, there's nobody. Literally, only James Earl's lost, and there's nobody that I have serious negative things to say about. I say this, and in an hour's time, I'll listen back to this and be like, "Christ, that was severe."
Yeah, it's a little much.
Yes, Adam is standing in for No Joy Taylor, who's having a wee kip.
We decided that the only person to replace Dan was the other person who got denied balls by Ian. So.
Seems like a fair thing to do, right? I've got Adam. No, I've got Adam on, obviously. James Cameron and Niall are listening, and we are coolio, good to go. Sound, and Niall's put the picture up as well. Cool, right? Let's fire ahead then. So, like I say, the whole thing's going to be segmented because too much of if you listen back to the old podcast, too much of it is just us going off on a tangent, and it's like 40 minutes worth of blabber. Zach's going to get us on demand. You can get that not on FS1 and Fox Sports Radio. So there's going to be 5 segments we're going with. So first of all, we're going to do the stories of the week. We're going to do 3 stories per week. They're going to be relatively quick. Then we're going to do the 3-word game. So every game that was played by player teams this year can be summarised in 3 words. After that, we'll do the power rankings. That's the top 10 teams as we see them. Then we'll do the fantasy team of the week. I said about that in the group. That's a quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, a flex, a tight end, and a defender that we thought were really good this week. Doesn't have to be a player. Control characters. Well, it can be some user. Yeah, I'm going just 1 defender because honestly, I watched the whole week, so that's 8 of yous and at least 6 CPU opponents as well, and I come up with 2 or 3 defenders that I thought played really well. The 2 that did not make the list, by the by, were Byron Murphy of the Cardinals and Deion Jones of the Falcons. Deion Jones was so close, but the defender I've picked, I'm like, it's definitely this guy. And then we're going to finish up with the Blazing 5, so that's the 5 most exciting / important. I mean, it's going to be weak sauce for week 2 because none of you are playing for your division, etc. Yeah, but it'll be a bigger segment as we go on. But I just picked the 5 games I think are going to be the most exciting to watch for week 2. And Adam, I, and Vegas Bet will give you the lines and the 5 of those. We do predict some CPU losses. Oh, not Vegas Bet, obviously. Yeah, God Almighty. I am going to fall over so many times saying the word not. So if you think I should have said the word not, just imagine me saying the word not. Here's me saying it now. Not. Right, you just copy and paste that in. So first things first, the story of week 1. Obviously, this was always going to be the story. Even if COVID had struck and half the games were called off, it was always going to be Mitchell Trubisky and Justin Herbert. Who does that? Because Justin Herbert only plays week 1, statistically, historically. So it was always...
He loves a week 1 game.
He loves a wee week 1 cheeky game against the Lions. It was always going to be this. And people would have, in the old podcast, it would have just been us talking about how shite Trubisky was and how much we love Justin Herbert. But here in the new Not the Herd podcast, we actually have some stats to back it up, and they both quarterbacks played well.
They did. Similar performance from both of them. They did what they needed to get the win, but a lot of errant throws. But neither of them or sorry, Trubisky was just under 50%, and or sorry, just over, as was Herbert. Both 52%, I think.
See,
completion percentage. Yeah, both exactly 52%.
I literally think that yeah, I would love to do a segment every week where we see who's doing better, Trubisky or Herbert, but I'm not going to be that convoluted with it. I think they both played fairly similarly. Both 6.5 to 7 out of 10, like you said, did enough to get the job done.
Yeah.
Um, I felt like it was bigger for Herbert because he was playing a player team and he didn't throw the pick. But at the same time, just off the eye test, if I had to take one of the quarterbacks for week 2, I'd probably take Trubisky. And I liked Herbert, but there was just, like he's 10 for 19. But if you watch the game back, I think he opens 1 for 7. Like it took him a long time to get going in that game.
Yeah. At one point, he was definitely 3 for 10, and I remember thinking, my faith in him is falling around me, but he brought it back.
But then the flip side of that is
Made some great
Trubisky.
throws.
Trubisky had like 200 yards and 3 touchdowns to start the game, and then instead of benching Trubisky for his backup in the third quarter, he just left Trubisky in, and from the Bears didn't score a point after the 4 minutes 15 to go in the third, and Trubisky stayed in. Trubisky threw, but he was effectively shut down. Like the coach put the shackles on him midway through the third. Now again, when you win when you win 21-9, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I don't know. Like I say, if I had to pick one of these quarterbacks for my fantasy lineup for week 2, I would take Trubisky because there's more I need to see from Herbert. But both played okay.
Yeah, honestly, it's very close. Like, it's pretty much personal preference, and I'll always prefer Herbert, so I'll pick him.
Just to close the Trubisky Herbert story off there, week 12, Chicago at the New York Giants. Good luck not talking about it that week. Yeah, I am ready.
Yes.
Next, we're talking about the power shift in the East. This is the NFC Beast. It was the NFC least last year, where they could only, again, just like in real life, they could only beat each other through the first 4 weeks. But at the moment, Zach's Giants sit on top with a divisional win, and James's Cowboys, the retaining NFC East champs, sit at the bottom with a divisional loss.
So it's also it's kind of still the NFC least because Giants are the only teams who won week 1.
Yeah, just looking at that, there's I don't see any other division that's like that. Actually,
the North, I think. No, there was one. The AFC East is like that. The Jets have the only one. We are in the upside down.
Buffalo still have to play. I attest.
Buffalo lost.
They lost to Baltimore, did they?
Yeah, 30-21.
Oh, brilliant. What a dog shit division.
Both are a complete shit show.
Yeah. Good, that doesn't
change. It's only week 1.
Yeah, what was the result of thingy then as well? I didn't get, because it's week 1, there's 2 Monday night games. I don't have the result of the Niners-Rams.
Niners-Rams.
But they play each other, so it doesn't matter. There's going to be somebody with...
Rams won 28-10.
Okay, so yeah, it's just the 2 East divisions that have one person.
The shitlords.
This is where I'm going to contradict myself. Zach, that's you in front now with a divisional win, so you're like a game and a half clear of everybody else. So the division's yours for the taking, and my contradiction is, of course, James, it's only 1 game in. You may have a divisional loss, but if you beat Zach in the rubber match, then anybody can win that division still. I will say on record, I'm going to keep saying it too. Like, do you remember Adam when we did the fantasy league, and I would always say the Bucks were going to go to 9-7 and go to the playoffs, and I've been saying this since like 2010, and Vaughn just keeps laughing at me. Well, it's finally coming true. So I'm going to remind everybody that as Zach slips further and further away from the top of the division, which he inevitably will after I've said this, I'm going to keep reminding people that I said the Giants were going to win the division in August. The further they get from it, I will stick to my guns. I have the Giants winning that division. Do you think, it's only week 1, but here, this is what talk shows are for. Do you think there's any real concern in Dallas? Do you think do you think the Giants are definitely winning the East, or do you think the Cowboys are definitely in trouble? Is there anything that's definite after week 1?
Well, the definite thing is the Giants now have as many divisional wins as they did last season. And
Christ. That's only just sunk into me. And I researched for the show.
Yeah. So I wouldn't read too much into a week 1 game. I mean, if a few things went the other way, there's a few key turnovers that, if they don't happen, who knows? But I don't think it was a 14-point game, certainly.
Just to, again to close the power shift in the East story off, I will give both teams massive credit. Now, yes, they play in a division with two player teams in it, but we've seen plenty of divisions with two player teams in it, and this hasn't been the case. Since week one of last year, nobody has more player versus player wins than James Earls or Zach. They both have four now. Nobody else has four. So
I haven't even played 4 games.
yeah, no, there's John. Yeah, but it's still like they're. I think, but it's good records. They're both like four.
Yeah.
And I think James is 4-2 and Zach's 4-3, but looks like he's going to win more games than he will lose them now. So that's an exciting division. And the final story. Obviously, I wasn't going to get through the whole story segment without bringing this up. The Raiders. Christ, the league is better when Oakland wins. And not just wins, when they absolutely ride into town and emasculate the Chargers, a team who I don't did he beat the Chargers last year? I'm gonna just quickly check that. I have it
He
here.
beat the Chiefs, I think was his only divisional one. He beat the Ravens.
Yes, he
and finished
definitely
2-14.
beat the Chiefs, and he was 1-5 in the division. He lost the
Yeah.
Chargers games both last year, both by a single score as well. So
So he also has as many divisional wins as last season.
breaking news: rookie teams play better in their second year.
Who'd have thought it?
The only thing that bucked that rule a little bit was Stoops last year, because Stoops in his first year won the division and ended up with the first place schedule.
He was only like 1 game down on
I know
the
he
year
missed,
before.
he
It's
missed the
like,
playoffs, so everybody went mad. But he went from what, like 10-5-1 to 9-7. I don't think he was bad.
yeah, that's just unfortunate. And finished fourth in his division because they were all 8-8.
But I need to hammer home this Raiders point, because I watched the full game, and it and the Denver ones were the only ones I went back to watch again at different points. I was like, huh, holy shit, that's right. But the Raiders didn't beat the Chargers 17-7, which was a favourite scoreline of Nick's last year, or maybe 13-6. And oh, okay, so Nick's got to win, and we all rally round because it's Nick, and it's like, yay, go Nick. He thumped them. Like, they could have played 8 quarters and the Chargers wouldn't have scored double-digit points. The defense was fast. Allen Robinson, I think, leads the league in touchdowns, or at least among player teams. Josh Jacobs had such an organic, meaty stat line of like 14 for 40, which I love. That's basically 1980. It's not like 6 carries for 200 yards. No, 14 carries, averaging 2.1 yards per carry. And it was brilliant because they picked up first downs with it. It wasn't like they just ran him into the ground. And I think all 3 backs got touches. I think it was Jacobs, Richard, and AJ Dillon.
Richard didn't have a carry, but he may have had a reception.
AJ Dillon definitely
He did. No,
did towards the end.
AJ Dillon had 3 for 1 yard, which is an even better stat line.
Oh yeah, that's like a Jerome Bettis
And a
stat line.
TD, by God.
Oh my god, it is a Jerome Bettis stat line: 6 carries, 2 yards, a touchdown.
So,
Oh.
so he has 1 yard total, but 2 yards after contact. That's how you know it's good.
Those are trier yards. I have put Oakland on top of the AFC West for the time being, and that is purely down to margin of victory over a divisional team. So he's hardly been crowned West champion. It is worth noting that James plays a player team next week, and Nick has a CPU team. So much
does.
like Zach, nothing's decided, but the door's really open there for Nick to, even if he's not going to win the West, to stack some games up and give himself a nice wild card thing. I think I should bring
If
this
he
up now.
goes into week 3 with 2
Worst schedule.
divisional wins and the Denver Broncos are 1-1, he's in a great spot.
Christ, yeah, he really could. Well, I have the Seattle game. I did the predictions at the start of the year. I have the Seattle game pegged as being a difficult one for Nick in week 3. But you're right. If James is 1-1, and Nick's starting to tag wins together, you're like, I cannot wait to see James and Nick play each other twice this year.
Week 4 is
They
the
were
first
so
one.
they were so cut and dry last year. Like, they felt over after a quarter. And not that Nick played bad, it was just that everything it was the same as James versus Zach. James beat Zach by like a score, but everything James Cameron did in those 3 games, the 2 Raiders and the Giants one, just came off for him. Doesn't matter what he did. They just came off. Yes, the one thing I wanted to say before I moved on from the stories was Zach said during the week, and I feel the need to bring it up. Zach said during the week that his hot take for the year is that all player teams make the playoffs. Now, when I first heard it, I was like, okay, I didn't dismiss it out of hand, but I was thinking to myself, like, that's going to be tough. like because of the way it breaks and you all play each other, etc., etc. But the more I think about it, you're balanced really well NFC AFC. Tell me, Adam, that it can't happen because it could.
It absolutely could, because especially like you would imagine one team will get out of the North, NFC North, because the East play them. So you would think that most of those teams should have at least 3 losses from player games.
Right.
So you would hope that the winner, being the Bears, gets out, and no wildcard teams, which really does open up that spot.
The big question marks for me, and it's the two teams that in the preseason I predicted them. I predicted Nick to go 500 and Stoops to go 9-7. But I also have both those teams, Cardinals and Raiders, missing the playoffs in the preseason predictions. They're the key for me. I feel like everybody else gets in.
The two Wests play each other, so it's the same thing that the Seahawks will have to play, and they play the NFC South. So the Seahawks have to play me, Nick, and James, as well as 2 games against Stoops.
Hang on, does Nick have to play you?
No, Nick plays Stoops.
Stoops, right. Oh god. I mean, that. Whoa. I'm gonna look up the schedule now. Where's that? Arizona, Oakland, week 16.
Bowl.
Oh Christ, week 16.
My God.
Neither of them are going to be criticised at all, but one of them could
Pencil it in.
one could be RIP by the end of it. Right, so now we're on to the 3-word game. Like not the herd. It is my belief that all of these games can be summed up in 3 words. Also, to go along with them, I have a little meme of each game, and I'm going to send those into the group now. So the first game, Saints beat the Seahawks 21-7. And my 3 words for that are ba-da-ba-ba-ba. I'm loving it. I thought Jordan Love was back. Yes. I thought he was really good. God, if he just please stay fit and win the MVP.
He deserves it.
You have to turn. Oh, did you turn injuries back on for week 2?
I did not, but I will now.
And breaking news: Alvin Kamara is hurt.
Oh, poor Alvin. He has it tough.
So yeah, basically Jordan Love's back, and that's great. And as long as Love stays fit the full season, they're gonna go 15-1. They're gonna be in the NFC title game. I mean, these are all like life death taxes. Adam, I'm not asking you to be too critical of your own team, but any thoughts on the Seahawks game?
A little pedestrian, I would say. There was a few mistakes, like 21 points. It's not going to get it done, like, is it? Seattle's play calling was so bad that I could get away with it.
Yeah. That just for those who are listening and maybe don't have the group chat up. That's definitely the target of the butt of my meme joke. I thought Seattle, Russell Wilson played out of his skin, and I mean he was arguably the best quarterback in the league this week. But when you ask him to throw a check down on 3rd and 20, it's not going to be enough.
Yeah, I think breakout players for me was Tease Tabor. Playing the slot corner was absolutely everywhere. And we'll just see how it goes. Need to get rid of the turnovers. 2 turnovers in a game's not good, like so. But
the fumble,
yeah, it's plenty to build on.
The fumble I can live with because it came really early, and I didn't like it either.
He stole a touchdown, but he's a rookie, so I mean we'll let him away with it.
Okay, so next game is Chicago. They beat the Dolphins 21-9, and my 3 words for that is noise Niall makes. Did anybody watch the game? In both halves. Oh god, in both halves, and at least in 3 of the quarters, Niall has a 2nd or 3rd down play and goes, and possibly for longer than that, right? This is exactly, and I felt for him because it was the noise that I made. There was just like they won the game, and it was more or less it was a fairly identical scoreline to yours. He gave up more points, but he didn't allow a touchdown. It was similar enough score-wise, but just the whole way through the game, you were like, and literally the head coach was making that noise. It was COVID, so there's no fans in, so you can hear him on the headset.
If that's a 3rd down play, maybe that's like Trey Burton's mating call. that's like his activation noise.
Turns out it's actually just Niall calling plays in. But I thought
yeet it to Trey. There we go.
We touched on it earlier. Trubisky looked good. over 200 yards. The completion's a little low, but again, one of those like, he was just over 50% pass completion. At least one of those passes was just a big yeet on a post with 2 seconds remaining on the game clock. So he was more accurate than the stats suggested, but too many times in second and third down, and it's just because Niall's getting to grips with this new playbook, which I really like. Sky's the limit for him, I know, if he can get it together. But too much of it was him, and I love that he's on his headset. Too much was him showing aloud, like, I don't really. It's not that he doesn't like it or get it or want it or prefer it, but he's just seeing these going, no, I don't really like that. It felt like a pre-season game.
Yeah.
In the sense that he's still trying stuff out. And I expect that from the likes of the Bears, the Raiders, and the Cards through the first 3 or 4 weeks to actually get to grips with things. 21 points is good. I would have liked him to not switch off the offensive top in the middle of the third. David Montgomery still suits what Chicago needs from a running back. I literally think if Barkley goes to the Bears, it doesn't overly help them. Maybe they'll run clock faster in the second half, but Montgomery does what he needs to do. Burton, and we'll get to this later. I like Burton a lot, but there's a tight end I actually like better in a player team. Burton is still arguably tight end one among player teams. They can still do stuff. The defense is a little bit better. I still, if you go back and watch the Dolphins' offense in the first half, there's still too many times where I see the corners outside in man coverage and they're just getting beat in simple routes. And there was two plays the Dolphins had that went for 50 yards, and this is Niall's back. I don't want to be Rio Ferdinand in this here, but Niall's back. Niall's defense was turgid to tragic last year, but straight off the bat, game one, he's going to let you pick up 60 yards per drive, and you're gonna leave with a field goal. Preston Williams and whoever their back is both broke 50-yard plays, and like 15 minutes later they're kicking a long-range field goal. I feel really good about the Bears.
Patricia has a wet dream thinking of the Chicago Bears defense and how they are actually bend but don't break, rather than his defense, which is just keep bending and then break eventually.
Inevitably. Too many people say bend don't break though and big it up whenever they lose loads of yards and points. It's like, oh, bend don't break, and you're like, you just read that in the back of a cereal box somewhere. But the Bears are genuinely like, they're a poster boy this year for bend don't break. They haven't, I'm gonna keep an eye on the Bears first few weeks. They haven't allowed a touchdown yet, and they are let me see, are they the only, no, the other funny enough, the other two teams that I don't think are going to make the playoffs, the Raiders and the Cardinals, haven't allowed a touchdown. We'll get to them. So they
do go and play the red hot New York Jets this week though.
And yeah, exactly. Oh my God, everybody's gonna have a losing record in the AFC East. So on to Denver. Denver beat the Chiefs 21-14, and my 3-word game for them is 2nd and 2. Denver, there are 2 things stopping Denver from being a Super Bowl team. 1 is John McGuinness, and 2 is James Cameron. No, it is second down and 2. And if you go back and watch this game, every time, first play is, I love thingy, by the way, Travis Etienne and Matt Breida. I think they're elite. They're a lethal partnership. James is the only person I believe in this entire league that can win a game without passing the ball. Zach did it sometimes last year, but they, honest to God, if they just threw to Fant once, they can win a game. They did it against Baltimore last year. They can win a game.
I had Matt Breida as second for MVP last season. I thought he's fantastic.
Yeah, and he might see his numbers are going to go down. This is a warning to everybody. If I see Matt Breida on the come down player of the year, I'm going to come and kill you. His numbers are going down because ETN is getting a bigger workload, and they're going to have 2 backs, and probably neither of them is going to hit 100 yards, or sorry, 1,000. Which is
say that Matt Breida was 22 for 128.
Oh, I know. I know, but they have more player games than they did last year. The Broncos, I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball at will. Oh yeah, so my meme is just that James just kept pressing X and randomly selecting run plays and scoring on them. But too often he picks up 8 yards and gets to 2nd and 2. And then the second down is halfback blunt weak, and it gets stopped. Then he runs it again on 3rd and picks it up. Now, James's objective this year has to be to win the AFC title game. If he doesn't, it's not an abject failure by any means, but that's what he did last year when he was in his rookie year. So he's got to be gearing up to win that AFC title game. You will not beat big teams by running the same play in 2nd down and 3rd down. I would like to see him be more aggressive with the pass in 2nd and 2. Now, especially because Barry Benson didn't really turn the ball over last year. So I'm okay with him going to the air a little bit more. But there's nothing to literally there's nothing to stop you throwing a slant or a tight end out
Oh,
on
I mean
second
there
and
is.
two.
The Dylan Cole is there to stop you throwing a slant.
Ah, good. I was
Not the
hoping you'd pick up
Harbour,
on that.
but I mean, I think that's still PTSD induced, so
But
I'll let him go with that one. That's definitely
okay,
okay.
fair. But I gotta see something. No, you did some play actions in the second half that I thought were really good, but too often you got there in second and two, and that's a chance for you to throw a nine. Because as you proved throughout the game, if you run that blunt dive weak on third and two, you're gonna pick it up. So don't run it in second and two, because then you get stopped and then you panic. um, Other than that, I really like Denver. Denver's my preseason AFC Super Bowl team because I've projected that they will beat the Texans this time in the AFC title game. That there was nothing in week one to support that, but I really like the ground game. Much like James Earls last year, I think James Cameron can go and win 13, 14 games this year at a canter as long as he'll win the majority of his CPU games. The ground game will support him. Next up is Arizona. Oh, I haven't got a meme made for Arizona yet. I'll skip Arizona and go back to them. Right, on to Dallas. Where are we? Dallas meme. So Dallas is 3-word game. They lost to the Giants 27-13, so it was a 14-point deficit. We'll offset it a little bit. It's against a player team. My 3-word game for Dallas is cannot name defender. I watched the full game twice, and outside of Jeremy Lars Woodby, I can't name any of the other 10 Dallas defenders. I know Jalen Smith's there because you often speak to me being, how do I shift this massive contract I didn't sign? But I literally couldn't name. Adam, I'm going to put you on the spot here without looking at your stat sheet. Outside of Lars Woodby, how many defenders can you name that played that Giants game?
Not Leighton Vander Esch, in the spirit of the podcast.
Spot on.
I know that his free safety is called Stearns, but I don't
So
know
did
if he
I,
played.
but I didn't see him. And I watched 8 quarters worth. I watched it back. I did not see him at all involved in the play. I could be mistaken. But outside of Lars Woodby, who I only seen because he continually gave up the seam route, I didn't see any other Dallas defenders that I was like, oh, cool, he's a defender. I'm sure Jalen Smith did something.
7 tackles.
Okay.
Jalen Smith had 5.
I definitely seen Jalen Smith. I don't know if I ever seen him make a tackle, but I definitely seen him out there. So if you know Caleb Serm's name off by heart, you know 3 of the 11. I mean, I say 11. Teams use 14, 15 defenders. I can't name any Dallas defenders. And I must have seen his salary cap page with salaries more than any of the rest of yours because it's sent to me on like a bi-weekly basis. I couldn't name any of the defenders, and that was it. Zach played pretty well, but by his own admission, Zach could have played worse and won that game by about 2 scores. This is not me bodying James. I don't think James was terrible. Offensively, yes, there was a turnover that came at the wrong time, but defensively, I just don't. He didn't do anything bad, but I know he's trying to get the user in right on the safety, but all too. And it wasn't like, I mean, you played him last year. Saquon Barkley ran all over you.
Oh yeah, I'm still picking his footprints off me.
But Barkley, how many was it? 60 yards? How many yards did he have in that game, Adam, against James?
You put me on the spot. I'll tell you now in a second.
Oh, you're so good.
Team.
Because
it didn't seem like he had a lot. He broke a couple of runs late.
If it's less than 200, then you have no excuse for putting up 13 points in that game.
260. Put some respect in the man's name. He was 16 for 81.
81. And some of those were garbage time. Like, I feel like James did a good enough do you know what I'm going to hark this back to? You know whenever Niall takes Michael Thomas away?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
81 yards
takes
is
Thomas
not...
away and loses by 30.
Right. So this is why I'm going to give James a little bit of credit. I don't feel like giving someone 81 yards is taking them away. But again, I only feel like 60 of those are... Zach used the term a few weeks ago about like garbage yards and garbage stacking up. But I can't remember the term, so I'm going to make something up. Like actively aggressive offensive yards. I think Barkley only had about 60 that were important.
I think he used the term DAC yards.
Ah, brilliant. Yeah, okay, so about 20 of Barkley's are DAC yards. He only had about 60 yards, and I have spoken to Zach since. That was part of the game plan. He wanted Barkley to get that many, get a decent amount of yards, move the ball, but I also wanted to have a passing game that he could rely on. And I think he did. Now, again, not every team is going to let you go up the seam.
If Teddy's still in that game, Saquon has 25 carries for 180.
Right.
but because he had Herbert, I think he just naturally has more faith and sort of more curiosity as
So
much as anything.
I gotta give you the three words that I give for Zach. Same game, obviously, but the three words that I gave for Zach were just in time. Like, and just
It's
off what
kind
you
of two
said there.
words.
It's no, I have it just in. It's just in time.
Mm.
I have it in inverted commas as well, so it's rubbish. But yeah, just to back up that point, if Teddy Bridgewater plays that game, Zach probably wins by four, and Barkley is sweating by the end of it. Whereas I really don't feel like Barkley had to do too much of anything.
No,
Um,
he's a supporter, which is what I think Zach ultimately wants him to be.
but again, I like Zach's passing game a little bit. I think he's getting good pieces in the right places at the right time, but too many of those points came off a tight end seam route right up the middle into cover three. Now, the only
Yeah.
teams that I've seen that are going to give you that every single game are Dallas and the three CPU teams in the NFC North, because none of them know about Trey Burton apparently. But that seam route, like, who does Zach play in week two? I have it here. Washington. Oh fuck,
Oh,
they're garbage actually. Yeah, okay. Philly in week three. Philly, Zach are not going to let you throw a seam route all the time up into cover three. Uh,
especially with Leighton Van Der Esch.
I chatted to Niall about this during the week. There, he admits that he was trying to do too much with his plays. He was like, oh, there's all these new plays. Let's try and get as many of them in as possible in week one, and that's what hampered him a little bit. Which is why I don't want to be saying to Zach, you need to get seriously. You're only in week one, but you need to get seriously more multiple on offense. If you look that, you would think that the Giants had a different coach or quarterback from week one of this year to any other game last year. So he's going in the right direction, but I need to see more other route patterns, if that makes sense.
Yeah, he had 10 completions, 6 were to a tight end and 4 to a receivers.
Now that you've mentioned that, I'm going to go straight on. Oh, there's Zach's meme, by the way. I'm going to go straight on to the Raiders, because this is I really wanted to talk about them. You know, the Raiders had four touchdowns, three passing touchdowns, all to wide receivers. That
Oh,
doesn't sound like a big deal. Of course, you throw to wide receivers. Two things: one, how many of us in CFM get by just throwing to the tight end down the red zone? And two, Cam Newton. What are we in real life now? Week 9. Cam Newton still hasn't thrown a touchdown pass to a wide receiver this year.
was the one fullback and one tight end, was it?
I believe so. Yeah. I mean, or it
He
could have been,
definitely
no, it could have been a running
Johnson
back.
got one.
Was it?
Jacoby Johnson, yeah.
I feel like Burkhead might have got one.
Burkhead probably got one.
Yeah, but he definitely is none
I
to a
bet
wide receiver, which is so bad.
that's because he just eats it in himself in the red zone.
So my three-word game for the Raiders, who won against the Chargers 28-6, is new sports car. I like this new car. If you make that noise, I know I've done my job right. New sports car. I like this car a lot. Like, he is traded in a Fiat Punto for a Lamborghini Gallardo. This is a nice car, and I like it, and I want to see how far it takes the Raiders.
What I never factored in when thinking about the Raiders was the Derek Carr contract year buff. That he went through the first time he was in a contract year, and now his contract's up. He just turns it on.
Yep. Oh shit, might not get paid next year.
Yeah, fuck, I'm out of a job in 6 months' time. Better throw this ball properly.
But I thought they were good. I mean,
They were.
I almost want to
It
say
was a different team.
the two games that I enjoyed watching the most, and bear in mind, I am literally a public advocate of the Rams Patriots Bowl. The two games that I enjoyed watching the most this week were Saints Seahawks and Raiders Chargers. I really liked the Denver game, but it did feel like it was just blunt dive after blunt dive, because it was just for my personal viewing pleasure. But rather than 1980s, Knicks was more 1990s, early 2000s. Yes, Jacobs got fed to death and averaged 2 yards per carry or whatever, but I mean, there was loads of passing touchdowns as well. I thought it was really good. I thought if Nick could just bottle one performance, it's that one, and just use it the rest of the year. I thought it was class. It's also massive for him that it's a divisional win, so he keeps pace with James
That's
Cameron,
a
and
huge leg up to the start of the year. Like.
Kansas and the Chargers both have divisional losses. So I don't think it could have started any better for Nick at all, and he was good in defense as well. Niall made a comment during the game about he said Nick was on fire, and he said as one of the corners, I can't remember who it was, took the ball away at a crucial moment, and I think they turned him over again first drive of the second half, and it was still a one score game. I just yeah, it was just really impressive all around the board. I think it really benefited Nick having a full preseason against player teams as well. Like, yeah, I think they played Zach in the preseason this year, or was it last year?
This year.
This year.
The preseason schedule's the same every year now. Because Madden.
Because Madden. It's trying its best, damn it.
Yeah.
So the last game is Houston, who battered Indianapolis 40-20. Indianapolis are not in my power rankings, and I'm sure you're all like, well, of course they've played one and lost one, but they are like 11th, 12th. I thought Indianapolis were plucky, and I'd like to see them against a player team that isn't the indomitable superforce that is John. I really thought they moved the ball well. There is an Indianapolis player on my team of the week. I really, really liked what Indy did. And yes, if there's two people that are going to sit here and take the piss out of how poor Indy are in the CFM, it is the two people in this podcast. But yeah, Adam, if you can,
CFM whooping boys.
Yeah, I was going to say, can you give me something positive to say about the CFM whipping boys?
They did better than anyone, I think, give them hope. Like, if you give the whoever their head coach is 20 points before the game, he'd have took that. Brissett was okay.
Yeah,
he was better than okay. The two turnovers were pretty crucial, but
would it be fair to say if Brissett was a Seahawk, you would have battered them by about 40, and if Wilson was a Colt, maybe they beat John?
Yeah.
Which is the weirdest way I could have put it. But
didn't throw those two picks, I think they had a chance. It was just, you can't do that against that Texans team. You just can't turn the ball over. It's the death knell of them.
I worry about. I'm giving the Colts some props now. Yes, I will talk about the Texans, I swear. I'm giving the Colts some props now because they're the division where the Jacksonville Jags just, I don't know if Matt's still in the league or not, but they seem to be elite. Like, they are just destroying all around them. And of course, John's going to go.
Justin Fields having a year.
Right.
For
Going to be exciting. Going to be exciting.
Especially when he's a Patriot at pick 4 next year.
My 3-word game for the Texans is best gets better. Watson lost a fumble on his first or second drive, and if you took that one moment out, I thought he was incredible. And it was just Hopkins, Fuller, your dad's dog. Anybody could have run a 9, and they were 15 yards open, and the ball was on time. Clock management, the run game was unspectacular, but it really didn't need to be. They wanted to pass first. They wanted to get 50. It was a banner ceremony night. They were like, we are dicking these guys. Divisional game, opening game of the season. We're going nuts, and it came off for them. Really, he's the top scoring player team, and I expect it to continue that way for most of the season.
And I fully expect Jordan Poyer to be up there with acquisition of the year.
Right.
What a player. Shit tattoo. I seen him on Sky today. I know this is irrelevant, but he has the NFL shield on his arm.
That's
like the full left shoulder is the NFL shield.
Is that good or terrible? I can't decide. It's certainly not okay. So yeah, my meme's in there as well. I loved that John was stuck in his own 10-yard line and actively chose to punt.
My God, surely not.
I know.
One punt for 30 yards?
It's sad that might be his only punt for the first 10 weeks, but it was part of my best gets better. I thought he just seems more focused. I just think he wants to win back-to-back bowls, and it will drive him mad right up into the point where it happens or not. And it will make for some good football.
The 16-0 bowl. That Miami loss hurt last year.
The 16-0 bowl was... Winning a bowl at 16-0 was so bad that the league actually stopped for like 6 months while I mentally recuperated. And we switched consoles. John, it's not worth it. It's really bad.
That's why I lose one game a year, just in case.
Yeah, you keep your mental sanity intact. So the last 3-word game is the Cardinals. They beat the Falcons 13-3. Adam's like, ka-ching!
I beat the Seahawks for it, so.
So all's fair in divisional warfare. Yeah. My 3-word game is hold the phone. You would score more than 13 points if you didn't just like commit holding all the time. And I know it's not your fault, but you're employing them. I think your guys are a bit trash at that. The meme that I've just put in the group sums it up as well, and is the reason why I have you missing the playoffs. I love you to bits, Stoops, but literally, Kyler Murray, oh, brilliant. I actually had him he was going to be in the fantasy team of the week, and then he threw a pick, and I'm like, oh god, okay, maybe not. Then he was class again. Then he made some more mistakes, and I mean, for all of the talk that we're going to have this year about Trubisky and Herbert, I sort of know what I'm getting out of him week on week, whereas Kyler Murray is literally the MVP of this league, and also a meme guy. I just can't decide whether he's... I literally can't decide. I just have no more words for him. He's mind-bendingly exciting. He's good for the league, I guess. But
he's worth a watch.
110%, like... That's a BT need charge of $14.85 for a game.
I just wish I saw more of his legs.
This has been a criticism
I've levied at the Cardinals for 2 years. I would love to see some scrambles.
I mean,
they're going to hold, so you might as well make the most of it, make it a flashy play that gets called back.
I like Thingy. Niall has criticised him for it too, and I would not say that Niall has Trubisky getting like 500 rush yards a year, but see when Niall's 3rd and 3, and the quick slant is taken away, maybe once a week you see Trubisky take off for it, and so all of a sudden you're 1st and 10 again, and it just takes the pressure right off.
Yeah,
and not only that,
have the option.
It's not just the Murray's not going to pick you up a 3rd and 3. Murray might fucking flip field. I mean,
slide with style.
Right? Oh god, he's the best. He's the best slider in the game. I just love it.
Watch it.
Makes me miss baseball. But I liked so many of the Cardinals players. I thought were 6 out of 10, and that's people think that's a criticism. That's a good. But if you're bad, it's 2 or 3. So, like Christian Kirk was good. Isabella was good. Kenyon Drake starting to turn into his quarterback. He had a big, huge gain and played really well, and then fumbled a crucial opportunity. You get flashbacks of Saquon Barkley's 260 yards. I still wake up in cold sweats watching the Cardinals 2-minute drill against the Rams, where first play of the drive, throw an interception. Well, Stips, you've lost. Gets it back because Sean McVay's play calling is like brain dead. And then has 30 seconds, marches up to the field goal range, commits intentional grounding, then throws a Hail Mary that's dropped in the end zone. I cannot live like that as a Cardinals fan. I can't.
The one hit I have on the Cardinals, and I had it last year too, that I noticed during the stats, is that all of their receivers will have similar stats. He has no one guy who, when you look at his offense and think he's going to get open. It's a criticism and a praise at the same time.
Yeah, I think it's predominantly a praise, but see if he reaches the divisional round of the playoffs and he's 3rd and 7. Yeah. And you're playing him. You don't know who he's throwing to, but I don't think he knows who he's throwing to as a result.
Yeah. It's a bit mental, but I think it does kind of hurt him in like key downs that he doesn't have that like corner to Thomas or a post, a rollout post, or like the tight end seam. That play that's like a 75%er that's going to pick it up.
Yeah, what's the staple of the Cardinals offense? At the minute, it's somewhere between an inside zone and yeeting it on a 9 or a slant probably. But again, if you're like 3rd and 7 and you're playing a user and he's Dylan Cole, you can ask around the league. Slants aren't going to work there. So let me see. We got 50 minutes to fit in about 35 minutes of content. We'll get there. So power rankings, really, really quick. Where did I... Oh, okay. I've actually lost the power rankings. Where the fuck have I put them? Is this them here? Yes.
This is the quality production.
Absolutely, yeah. So there's 10 teams that I've got in the power rankings. I'm going to zip quickly through this because there's not that much to talk about. They've only had 1 week. So, number 10, I have the Cleveland Browns. They went into Foxborough and beat a pretty poor Patriots team, but I've seen people slip up in Foxborough down the stretch last year. I think they got the Jags at an opportune time as well. But Cleveland's got a really good offense. They've always played player teams close because of the offense. Like they've got Baker and OBJ, and they will hurt you if you fall asleep defensively. Just one last thing in the Cardinals game, they're totally spaced and forgot to say it. I got all my jibes in at Stoops. Stoops, the defense, you've taken criticism on board. The defense is younger, the defense is faster. You're better across the board absolutely. There. It's massive. 3 points was not an accident. Number 9, I have the NFC North leaders, Green Bay. They're 1-0 with a divisional win. They beat Minnesota, which is obviously huge. It's one of the 6 games they have to win. As long as they continue to split the Bears series, they're in with a shot of being a playoff team. It's been so long since the North has had 2 viable teams. I would like to see it without, because obviously John was there as the Packers. I'd like to see a CPU team come out of there. Number 8, even though the Packers are top of the North, I have number 8. I have the Chicago Bears at 1-0. I have them as the 8th best team in the league. They will beat bad teams. And if they play good teams,
there's CPU teams of them.
Yes.
It's okay.
Yeah, no, don't worry. I haven't put Dallas above them for some bizarre reason.
Yeah, that's a big list.
Yes, Niles Bears are the lowest player team in this list. There are teams that did not make this list. I am being ruthless. Chicago will beat bad teams, and against good teams, Chicago is always in with a shout. Literally said this to Niall the other day when he plays the Saints. It's always a 5, 6, 7 point game. So I need more. The Bears could drop as low as 10 or go as high as 4th. They're at 8 right now. I need more film from them. Number 7, I have the Colts 0-1 with a divisional loss, which is the worst way you could start week 1. But I liked so much about them, and I feel if you push me, I feel like Indianapolis beat Chicago head to head because they've got the offense to do it.
If that Indy turn up again, but I mean, I've had 7 years of trying to hope that Indy are going to turn up, and they get like absolutely whopped 58-0.
They're my AFC Bucks. They just don't turn up. At number 6, I have the Seahawks 0-1-0. Yes, they are 6th, and they have only scored 1 touchdown. But we are going to see Seattle in a lot of player games this year, and I like Seattle in a lot of those player games this year.
You just can't get them off the field,
right? He's so many third and 14s that are caught at the sideline, and you're like, balls.
During that game, I cursed for giving him Austin Hooper at least 4 times.
Every time we seen Hooper, Daniel would always laugh like, ha, there's another team that John's buried in cap hell, but at least Hooper's playing well.
Yeah, it's the same as Mixon on the Bucks. It's like, fuck's sake, why did they do this?
Every time. I like number 5, so we're into the top 5 now. Generally, again, it's week 1, but generally the top 4 or 5 teams are the teams I see going to conference weekend. Number 5 is the Oakland Raiders. They have a win. They're 1-0 with a divisional win.
Deserved.
Yep, sung their praises earlier on. It's up to Nick how long he stays in this list, but I really like them. Again, it's not... Dan Hansis does this with his NFL power rankings, and I hate it. So 9 would beat 10 and 8 would beat 9. I try and do it as much as possible, but I don't necessarily think the Raiders beat the Bears. But the teams above you in the power rankings, I generally feel would beat you. Generally. Number 4 is Denver. They're not top of the AFC West by my standings, but I still feel like they're going to win the West. I still feel like they're the AFC Super Bowl / AFC title runner-up team. I love their running game. I need them to be a wee bit more multiple in the pass, and if they're not, they won't crack this top 3. Number 3, I have the Giants. 1-0 with a divisional win. I was never going to change my number 1 spot. The Giants could have been up as high as 2, but right now number 2 is the Saints at 1-0. I like Jordan Love's offense more than Justin Herbert's. Justin Herbert's been a Giant for about 40 minutes. So I'm not going to be overly...
in his second NFL game.
Yeah, right. So I'm not going to be overly critical of him. But right now, the list is who I think will go to the Super Bowl and who will win it, etc., etc. Number 1's the Texans, 1-0, 1 in the division. Yeah, I think we'll get 6-7 weeks in before anybody gives me a reason to think about changing that. It's going to be really tough. The Texans just look amazing. They're punting and they're throwing that. He's going to his first read. He's going to the 9 and it's there and it's on and it flips field and it's fucking frightening. On to fantasy team of the week. So I have 6. I have 6 user team players on it and 2 CPU guys. So I also have some shoutouts for guys that weren't on it. I think I already gave a shout out to Dion Jones. Thought he was good, and I like Russell Wilson as well, but they didn't make the cut.
Before we do this, the
Yep.
actual players of the week.
Oh yeah, please, yeah.
So no players made it this time. Spencer Rattler was NFC Offensive Player of the Week, and that linebacker from Atlanta, Aloakun,
Oh god, yeah, he was good, yeah.
with 10 tackles and a sack. Oh, sorry. Jordan Poyer got AFC Defensive Player of the Week, and Lamar Jackson he got like 7 Player of the Weeks last year. It was fucking absurd. But he's the AFC Offensive Player of the Week.
Sweet. The only one of those who was almost on my list here was Oloakun for Atlanta. Really, really liked him. He was on at every tackle that Dion Jones didn't get. So my fantasy team, I'll be quick enough for this, is Derek Carr, a quarterback. Just to reiterate the rules here, I'm only allowed to pick one player per team. So the 2 examples I'm going to use here are the Saints and the Texans. I literally could have had 3 from each of them, but I've obviously got one. The 2 running backs, I like Travis Etienne of Denver. Because he gives me kick return value as well in fantasy.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And the other running back I went with was J.K. Dobbins of the Chiefs. When you go back and look at the stats, I think he had like 12 total touches. Without him, like Kelsey did nothing. Without him, the Chiefs had no offense.
Chiefs. I'll tell you exactly.
If it's not double-digit touches, I'll be surprised.
J.K. Dobbins was 8 carries for 10 yards and a touchdown.
What about, do you have his receptions?
Receptions 7 for 45.
15 touches. There you go. Brilliant. Thought he was unreal. His rushing stats aren't going to blow anybody away, but it might have been enough to win your fantasy matchup in the flex. The 2 receivers that I went for were DeAndre Hopkins, and I went for Devin Funchess of the Colts because he made me believe the Jum's in trouble for like 3 quarters, which is more than a lot of teams have played, John. The tight end I went with was Mike Gesicki, and he has got it.
Massive plays.
He has a shot at being tight end 1. Trey Burton is still tight end 1 in the league, but for week 1, Mike Gesicki made in a game or in a week where DeAndre Hopkins hauled in so many grabs, and Michael Thomas caught the coolest touchdown of grab at the paint, get shrugged off, shrug him, run to the sideline, and start celebrating just before you cross the goal line. It's really nice. The ball was class too, but the play of the week is probably Mike Gesicki's Zach. Oh my God, play. You said earlier on that Stoops didn't have any weapons that he feels like he can definitely go to, or at least it doesn't look that way.
Yes.
Stoops, I read the chat, and I know you want somebody in this fantasy team, and I'm really upset now, but the flex option for me is Rashad Higgins, the split end for the Bears, because so many times when push comes to shove, a team that we always criticize for just going to the tight end now has a guy who can pick up 3rd and 10s. 1-on-1. He caught a delicious post in the first half and like 3rd and 14. And it was a time it was like 7-3, and you're like, if Niall doesn't pick this up, he's punting, and his defense is going to be like, ugh. Rashad Higgins, I like his receiver room as a room, but Rashad Higgins really, and I'm convinced his name's Rashad. Rashard. It's definitely thingy. It's the guy who played for the Browns, isn't it?
Yeah.
He was definitely the difference maker for Chicago in that game. And my defensive player is Cameron Jordan. I thought, did he have 2 sacks?
2 sacks.
And he
didn't show up all of last year, so he's well rested.
They came having 17 bye weeks. Clever. He what do you call it? His 2 sacks came. I'm pretty sure they both came at like mini like crucibles, like 3rd and oh my God, they're in range here. And one of them was definitely
one of them was at the half, I think,
at the end of the first half. Yeah. In a game where you won 21-7, but you could easily have won like 17-6. It was a really close game. He at times you just needed to push the panic button. Cam Jordan came in and went, "Yep, there you go. That's you knocked back 15 yards." Way. Thought he was class. I literally I have Dalton Schultz written here. I must have been drunk the other night. I literally don't see any Cowboy that I had any faith in. I wrote Christian Kirk with an asterisk because I could have had 8 different Cardinals who just weren't good enough to crack the selections that I made, but are all like dead close. Who else is in there? I actually had Matt Breida written down, but I still feel like Travis Etienne was a little bit more exciting on a 1 week. I like Bud Dupree as well, the outside backer for the Dolphins, much in the same way that Cam Jordan did. If the Dolphins had beaten Nile, Bud Dupree would have been the defensive player, but he made 2
Jordan
great.
Poyer would be worth a nod if you don't give Hopkins one.
See, that's the thing. I had Deshaun Watson in here and Poyer, but I can't like that. For me, Hopkins was just unbelievable.
Yeah, he was brilliant.
In a league where the expectations that John has wide receiver one after the Adams thing, and failing to find failing to find any receivers in Seattle. Who else is on here? Keenan Allen did okay against Nick. It was alright. Well, it wasn't as good as Higgins. Who else is on here? I have a list of Saints as well. Jordan Love, Russell Wilson, and Derek Carr are the 3 best quarterbacks in the league for anybody's money right this second. Deshaun Watson at 4, because Watson's looking better, but I still see that lost fumble, and I'm like, he's not the MVP. He's not the MVP yet. He could be. I mean, I'm warning the league now that there's a decent chance we get to week 12, and John's like, so I'm the MVP, and I have to sort of swallow my pride and go, yeah. Like, I'll never say he's not, just to wind him up, but Watson did not play as well as Wilson did when Wilson won the MVP. He didn't. I don't care points. I don't. So now we're into the Blazing Five. So we got 5 games for week 2 that we're going to call. Again, this really won't take very long. I'll do the Saints first. Adam's not going to give us a call on that, obviously. So the Saints are at home against San Francisco. The not Vegas bet line is Saints by 13. Because I'm giving you the not Vegas bet numbers, I'm not going to give you numbers, but I'm taking the Saints in that game, and I would take it pretty handily.
I hope so.
The Niners are okay, but I mean they'll be a little bit more aggressive than Seattle, but I don't see them doing anything other than what Seattle did. They'll keep the game close, but the Saints offense is too good to. I mean, Michael Thomas caught like a 58-yard ball one. I mean, the Niners aren't going to win that. So I'll save the player versus player game to the end. Arizona at Tampa Bay is in my Blazing 5. If the not Vegas bet line is the official not Vegas bet line is Bucks by 4. I am also taking the Bucks because they're a CPU powerhouse. They got beaten week 1 by the Steelers, so they need to turn that around. They've still got all of their weapons from last year, so far as I'm aware. And I think so. It's Stoops on the road, and he's got to go across country. He's got to go from Arizona to Florida. It's September. The game might even be called off. Thunderstorms, weather in Florida that time of year. But there's just I have more questions than answers for the Cardinals right now. So I'm going to take the Bucks by the slim margin of 4.
I take the Cardinals because it's just so very Stoops to go and smash the Buccaneers, but lose a week later to someone absolutely rubbish that he should be smashing.
For reference, that would be Minnesota in week 3. So I could.
So
Stoops is a bastard to predict.
Yeah.
Bucks by 28, then Stoops by 50. Oakland at Jacksonville. The not Vegas bet line is Jags by 6. Again, the Jags are. Don't sleep on the Jags. Go and look at their 2 games against John last year. They're a good team, and I just don't need Nick believing his own hype. I've given him enough in the last hour. I really like the Raiders, but you need to go in. That game is 0-0 when it starts, and it will stay 0-0 until mistakes are made. I'm picking the Raiders for that game. I'll go against the not Vegas bet line, but it's gonna be close. The Raiders need to stay that good on offense and stay that good on defense. Stay the course, and you can do it.
I think the Raiders will push on. I think that they'll use that as a building block. I think they finished the season 2-2, so you can take the first 12 weeks as what they were. This is a good team, and I have them by multiple scores, by 14. They're going to push on.
It's certainly going to be interesting. They beat the Chargers, and we all know about the Chargers losing so many 1-point games, and it happens in CFM as well. They're just trash at times. They can't help themselves. But if Nick there's a real chance that Nick's 2-0, and James Cameron's 1-1, and Nick has beaten the Jags, who are a 13-3 team most years. So, I mean, it's okay to rubbish some playoff aspirations for the Raiders now. Good luck doing it when they're 2-0. No,
Here's a quick scenario, real quick.
okay.
Raiders beat Jags and beat the Seahawks, and then beat the Broncos and are sitting at 4-0, and the Broncos are 2-2.
That would,
A
well,
two
wow.
game lead and 3 divisional wins in week 4.
Week 5 they'll be playing the Chiefs, who Nick has never lost to.
Oh baby,
So you're looking at 5-0.
there we go. Get up,
Everybody on the wagon, right? The last two are the big two. These are the two. Dallas at Philadelphia. They're literally. I know it's a nightmare. The not Vegas stat line on this is Cowboys by 3. I'm going to take Cowboys by 0.75. I feel like they need to win this game, and they know they need to win this game, but they've always needed to win in Philadelphia, and James hasn't necessarily always done it. It screams of bounce back because he lost to Zach and he needs to win, and he beats the Eagles and everything's fine, unless Adam.
I will take the Eagles, and I'll take +8 on the Eagles because they have just gotten so many weapons in the off season.
And they only ever use Ertz, and it's enough.
And what was a real dick of a team to play against last year now has Leighton Vander Esch and I think a star safety from memory. I remember just looking at the transaction list and thinking, fucking hell, the Eagles have signed all of the defenders. So you're not going to score 30 points on them.
Which is good because no one was going to accuse Dallas of scoring 30 points anyway.
Yeah, I think to beat the Eagles comfortably, you got to be mistake free, and I just don't see that Dallas team yet being mistake free.
Who said anything about comfortable? Week 10 last year, he beat Philadelphia 15-14. He would take that again. But again, I don't know. By the way, if he beats them 15-14, I'm giving myself a little green tick for the 0.75. The last one is the game of the week. If it's not Sunday Night Football, Madden fucked up. It should be Sunday Night Football. It's live in 5 minutes. Denver at Houston. Vegas stat line for this is Texans by 10, as James Cameron and Barry B. Benson. I mean, whenever you break up with someone, I've been waiting to get this analogy in all day. When you break up with someone and you got to take their CDs and clothes back to them, and you have a wee mourning period, you don't go out and get leathered and get laid straight away. There's an adjustment period. Denver are still in the adjustment period after the Dylan Cole pick. They are not ready. I have Denver beating Houston once they go home, they get right, they get over themselves, and they get back in the dating scene. They'll be ready for the title game. But week 2, they are not ready mentally to bounce back. So I am taking the Texans in that game.
Yeah, I have Houston
Analogy.
For the simple fact of Denver are going to be in a massively reduced playbook. They're not throwing a single ball between the numbers, and I just don't see them having enough.
Oh my god, 2 seconds. I believe that they're about to, what do you call it?
I think they are just about to kick off as it goes.
2 seconds, I'll get Twitch up here. It'll kick the party audio for a little bit, I imagine. But I will stream their game and we can watch along. That would be something else. Did you make a predict? You picked the Texans, didn't you?